your father was your hero, or still is, right? And how would you react if ubonithama lakho likhala budlabha? Likhala budlabha, like lakhala.
You know,
Like,
yeah, it is not acceptable, particularly because it is not what we were programmed as normal. So for us, it's foreign. But if we were taught growing up, if we create that and we do it for our kids, they will grow up knowing and understanding that it's okay for a man to cry. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And then I asked him, so have you ever said it goma cheating? Now I want to see if the relationship he has with my cheater is healthy now. You know, are they well equipped? You know, and he said to me, no, machita kitakare. I was raped when I was 7 years old for good 2 years. They said to me, hey, get ready for a captivating installment of Indoda Must Cry, a podcast dedicated to empower men in prioritizing their mental well-being and finding good and healthy coping mechanisms. I'm your host, Itumeleng Soromula, Kota Malala Yeswa. Bankitsing pila bar no man, there's a stereo usito nes mafet mis fenjo no trimpo, tawana kije papaye. Advocate Mabara Miskati, the female voice behind Indoda Must Cry movement. Bakaito, Arluchi.
You know what? Because you can't see me. Brian here. And welcome to Indota Must Cry, a podcast dedicated to empowering men, a podcast dedicated to teaching men how to be in touch with their own emotions, a podcast dedicated to creating safe spaces for men to be able to talk and to go against the narrative that says men are supposed to suppress their emotions, men are supposed to only focus on stoicism. This is the podcast that gives men a platform to say that you also need to be heard. Before being a man, you are a human being, of course. So this is a podcast wherein we are creating safe spaces for men to be able to grow, to be able to understand themselves, to be able to prioritize themselves, and to be able to lead and create a better society and better communities, globally speaking. I'm excited about this episode, more so because today we have the man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest speakers of our time. You know, I know that we are going to unpack this. There's so much that you are going to learn. There's so much that I'm going to learn now from the man himself. So I'm looking forward to the episode and hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Ghost. Hi, Awudi, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio today. Please tell us a little more about yourself, you know, beyond titles. Who are you?
First and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here. Um, and nerve-wracking.
All right.
Yeah, by the way, mina nguntsikelelo Lontiki, Ngakana. Also known as fanganoid fungus. Maning la magama, yabo? Yeah. I've done a lot of things. I used to rap. I'm a musician. Cishe ngaba umfundisi. Ngajike umnyako. You know, so yeah, yeah, and yeah.
All right, Awudi. Once again, thank you so much, you know, for your precious time. So, you know, the podcast is focusing on, you know, trying to create a norm, trying to create a norm for men to speak, you know. So I would like for you to, you know, tell us what is your take on that? You know, perhaps share your experiences with us and, you know, tell us what is your take on men now making it a norm to prioritize their mental well-being.
I'd say, Guti, we first have to understand what being a man is, or what manliness is, before we touch on the features that a man has. Because normally, isn't this thing when we try addressing them, we normally talk about our features, not the actual thing, what that thing is, you know. And so, Mina, I won't say it's much my opinion. I'd say let's look at throughout history what's been going on, right? Must what define manliness. Man created the world we're living in today,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not. Let's ignore your political agendas and your whatnot. Men created the world we're all living in today, you know, and it was through leadership. Once upon a time in history, with Moshe Mpama, you'd be the leader of that particular clan, right? Moshe Mpama. And then iskhathi changed because of now we're fighting with other people who don't know to protect our territory. So asidinga umuntu oshaya impama, asidinga umuntu ozomobilize abantu, you know. So labantu laba wethu, what they have in common is leadership, but they're leading in their areas of expertise. So being a man is not necessarily leading other people, but leading, dominating a particular space, you know, and then your followers will automatically come. You understand? I mean, you look at your great figures, Jesus, ufike la wafika wakhuluma into akhulumayo, yabo, wahamba bamlandela. Actually, there was a time lapho yabaxosha khona, bathi sizoyaphi, you know, because of dominate already. That's his thing. So, I mean, my take on manliness, it's leadership, and then about accountability comes with that. You know, those are features that come with being a leader in your particular space, you know. And then if you have mental health, sesibheka masesibona ke ukuthi okay, if being a man is leadership, what leads to mental issues that men go through? So I read a quote somewhere years back. The author was like, a psychologist studies the mind of a criminal. A doctor studies the nature of a disease, not to justify, but to understand so that they can break the pattern. You understand? So the nature of the disease is positive one, you know? So we need to minus, you understand? So that the problem learning a so men, our problems no avela because of asina space so dominate. And siyaqala siba frustrated. There's an internal conflict. Because naturally, nature expresses itself, you know. And once nature sengasazi express, kuba nama ila disease ivela khona. You understand? Ila where the psychologist comes in to study the mind of a criminal. You get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, so I'm not sure whether I answered, but yeah, manliness is basically leadership in a particular space, and then wonke lama ills lawa, as are because of men are failing to express themselves, you know, because we have to express ourselves, and then so now mabacala bakusuppress at espanini ingamla yakho. What then happens is you start expressing yourself, usha mfazi, usha ini. You get what I'm trying to say? So yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. So tell me, you know, we all know there's this narrative of Tuanje in Ekhaya, you know, Hutwa Munaki Nkulela Day. But truth of the matter is men are going through a lot, you know, and what I've realized rather is that, you know, as the society, we just don't know what we don't know. Hence, we don't know how to, you know, maneuver around a depressed man. You know, when a man is depressed, he's being sissy, it's nam nam. You know, those are the terms that are usually used by the society, you know. So I want to know, Guti, would you say to me now, Guti, the reason why men don't talk, it is because they don't have the platform, they're just not allowed Uguti Bakulume because they're always misunderstood by the society.
So I think that's a very important question to actually highlight. More so that Ntigelo has mentioned that a man, predominantly nature detects that a man has to lead and a man has to have a capacity that, or a space that he feels Oguti, that's where he dominates, right? And with that being said, also mentioning the fact that now the society has certain expectations as to how a man is supposed to carry himself. that is the very same reason why the podcast is Indoda Must. Because of there's a growing trend to say Indoda Must, Indoda Must. But that trend, it actually promotes performative masculinity rather than intrinsic masculinity that has value from within, that empowers men from within to outside. So I would say that it is a very dangerous place to put men and to especially to bracket them around those expectations to say they must perform in a certain way for themselves to prove to be a man. I say that it promotes performative masculinity because it fosters men to try and prove a point to the point that they end up doing things out of character, trying to prove that they are real men, right? Only to find out that being a man, as our guest highlighted, it's more about character, it's more about leadership, it's more about sacrificial performances rather than the tangible things that the society expects men to do. Creating safe spaces for men, it's very important so that men can be able to embrace masculinity in accordance to what I believe is productive masculinity. That doesn't pressure them to try and show off, because I believe showing off, it's the root cause of toxic masculinity, because you're trying too much, you're trying to prove, you're trying that, you know. So I just wanted to highlight that what's also your take regarding the fact that the masculinity that is pushed out there in our socials, it's that masculinity that says a man has to suppress his emotions. A man has to be a robot, and a man is supposed to be doing these all other things that I believe they promote toxic masculinity. So
I don't like the term toxic masculinity. And also, I want you to think of it like this, right? Your father was your hero, or still is, right? And how would you react if ubone ithamala kolkhala blapa? I'm asking you a question. Like, you react kanjani? Like, is that acceptable? Is that like khala blapa? Like lakhala?
You know,
Like,
yeah, it is not acceptable, particularly because it is not what we were programmed as normal. So for us, it's foreign. But if we were taught growing up, if we create that and we do it for our kids, they will grow up knowing and understanding that it's okay for a man to cry. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So the only reason we feel like it's shocking, Babu Khalelani Nkosam, you know, it's because we're just not taught that it's normal. You know, everything that we know, we were taught. Everything that we know was introduced to us, you know. And I honestly feel like if we also make it a norm, we also allow our boy child to grow up knowing that it's okay for you to cry, because, you know, above and beyond, being a boy or being a man is just a gender, but you're human. So the emotions in you that you need to embrace, the emotions in you that you can't suppress, you can't ignore. Because one thing about emotions is that the more you ignore them, they find a way of coming out eventually once they've piled up, you know, and as a result, you have depression, you know. Now, how do
so
you define depression?
what you're talking about is expressing yourself
Being
as a
able
man.
to express yourself
There's
as a
nothing
man.
wrong with express.
Yes,
Mina
without
ngibuza
fear.
ngokhala blapa. You remember there's a Iron Man 2, I think. Who's that guy? I forgot the character now. Said something to Tony Stark. He was like, if a man or if someone could make God bleed, then people would cease to believe in him. You get what I'm trying to say? And Iron Man da is an action figure who's a hero, da 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 da. You get what I'm trying to say? So, mina angithi ungas express. You have to express yourself. You know, we feel emotions. That's the thing. Emotions are there, our feel. Mina ngibuza ngokhala blapa, making God bleed. How does that look? Khala, ne? Mara ungakhali no sihlangana nawe moli or ngiyangi-understand ngizama ukuthini ngiyazi ngiba extreme or
Yeah.
but you get what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're trying to say, but I still feel like I still stand on saying men must be able to express their emotions freely. ukhala budlabha if within you feel like ukhala budlabha because what you are going through right now, it's overwhelming, it's too much for you to comprehend, then you are allowed and you must do it without the fear of ukhala budlabha. I don't know if I'm making sense,
Yes,
Brian. I'm saying
yes,
one thing
making
about
sense.
emotions is that you don't have to try and suppress them and ukhale a specific way, like use moving your act, you understand?
Yes.
Kumele ukhale the way you feel ngakhona, exactly how you feel at that moment. Like if now you receive a call, for an example, and they say umama kushonile and you say I stole, you're purchasing an iPhone. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna wanna show it a specific way, even though you just want to, bust phakathi kwakho? Are you gonna hold it in until you get in your car and in your secret space? And I think that's where the issue is. Hence, we want to make it, to introduce this healthy way of men being able to deal with their emotions ngendlela e-right, without the fear of saying I need to do it a specific way, because should I do it this way, people will think ngikhala budlabha. You get what I mean?
So I was speaking at one of these engagements at this other college, and after the event, actually during the event rather, there were question and answers. So one of the attendees said, I lost my parent, I lost my mother, and it was difficult for me to actually express myself and cry, more so because there's my wife and there's my kids here, and I found it very hard, And when I introduced the concept in that I must cry, he was like, actually, I feel a bit relieved because at that time I cried in a way that would define as blap, And he said I cried and I felt embarrassed. That's the thing about us as men. We feel embarrassed when we cry because it's taboo. It's something enguti, it's not used, it's something that is not promoted out there. We grow up being taught, "Monna kinku ulela ting," so you don't cry. So when you cry, you feel bad. You feel embarrassed. When yourself within yourself, you feel embarrassed. Like, why am I crying? And he said, after I cried, I was shocked the way my wife and kids embraced me. I thought they were going to judge me. I thought they were going to think, Guti, dad is weak. I thought my wife was going to, have those thoughts and, but I was actually surprised the way they actually embraced me and supported me in my weakness. At times you cannot, here's the thing about my emotions. I usually say that we have to acknowledge them. We have to point them out for what they are. So if you are angry, you must be able to express that I'm angry.
Yeah.
If you are sad, I'm sad. And if your emotions carry you to cry, I don't think there's a certain way that you need to try.
But as goes back, remember, men want approval from other men. It's natural. Anything that's not approved by other men, I span.
And I believe that is yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was saying, and I believe that is the very same purpose of the book, In What I Must Cry, of the podcast, In What I Must Cry, to say that, how about we change the narrative? How about we have an intellectual conversation about this? That yes, for years, it has been this case. But now that we are here, now that we know better, now that there's information, now that there's psychological research that proves that when emotions are suppressed, we burst out. In a sense that we, as men, especially as men, we displace our emotions. If I am angry or if I feel belittled, as you say, at work or in the streets, I come home, I turn off the wife, I turn off the kids. Because I displace it. I don't allow it to be what it is. But if I accept it, I'm like, okay, I was belittled and I feel weak. And I feel sad. And I feel like crying, and I accept it, even if I don't do it out there. But I find a safe space to say, let me express myself sincerely so, without holding anything back, without holding anything, and see, Uguti, wouldn't I get a relief from that particular?
That's the reason I was bringing up Linda Vale, which men want approval from other men. We cannot fix a problem without understanding the origin. Let's understand what okay. yes, kumele ngizi-expresse kanjani kaso, but now before sifika la, cause uzokhala. Mina ngizothi ukhala budlabha uyatefa. Understand? But now once kwaba ne-understanding ukuthi no, as men, this is how we are. This is what we're all about, this is what we're doing. And we found out ukuthi dadensele ayisipani. Yenza amajita shabafazi, GPV, suicides, a whole lot of issues, you know. And then we start tackling it from there. Because silas corner, because of we want approval from other men. What other men cannot approve of. It's not manly. It's not women who tell you what you it's other men, you know. And then now you're daughter for other men, not for women, you know, for other men, young child. And then now, once I want to leave, then we start working game and okay, fine. This is what's not acceptable, right? But then now my problem then you get what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it to kalab. I'm not referring to it in a it's not derogatory. My emotions melwa feel, melwa express, young child. And now melo understand the safe space you kala. You know, I lost a friend one time. I was so sad. So I had to go to. We met at a club. Ngabang committee lengaya. I found out impinjami podile, like, you know, and so naslanga I'm like, dude, untwana ushonile. You know, why dismiss? Awahamba and waqhubeka ngegroove. And then after that, I realized ukuthi lesa space lesiyana, the way environment bengasi spaces sokuthi ngaza ngezinto so imudi yabantu ile yangithola mina bokumele ngifike ngivele show face and then be like intanga mina ngeke ngikhona ukuhlala blah 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 and then I leave. You get what I'm trying to say? Mina, that's where my mind is at. Like mangikhuluma ukuthi I'm not saying khala budlabha in a yes, express yourself. Khala. You have to cry. You understand? Mara mele sibe conscious also of ama spaces and whatever. You get what I'm trying to say? So I'm not discrediting Indota Kala, Indota Melikale, but what I'm saying is, Melesberg, if I make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him, you know. And man is man. You get what I'm trying to say. If an space circle is safe, read the room, you know, and then ukale, and then uzoba grand. No Khalile, kumbula Mama ngiqede varsity, a friend died. And yeah, that was hard, eh? So bengiva ngegado. Nangiva ngegado. Mangisetraining nebantwini bengi-right. So I had this habit ukuthi mangihlike training, kumele abantu bavaye, ngizosikhuphukela slowly, yabo. Nangiqala ngikhuphuka ama-steps slowly. And then I met with another friend of mine. So he was trying to distract me, you know. Something was bubbling up inside. Ngiyakutshela. Ngabona istepisi, ngahamba ngahlala kwesinye istepisi ngakhala. I couldn't help myself. You know? And it was awkward for him because it's like, dude. So ngizala ngama motivational what and ngiyamuzwa ukuthi yaphetha, yabo. Mara uyazama, you know. But I'm like, I'm thinking, don't young better, you know. That was funny, you know. And namnyakhala, but training. You get what I'm trying to say? Like it's a yeah, it's not taboo, khala.
Yeah, no,
Khala.
that's
Feel my
true.
emotions was express. Ukale. You understand? And then yeah.
No, that's true. You know what? As Abuwane, I'm thinking to myself, Hore, what do you think, Sina, about, you know, men creating healthy friendships for themselves? You know, how would a friendship, the gents that can actually talk without the fear of being judged be? You know, because I once had a conversation with someone that said to me, you know what? When I was 7 years old, I was raped by a family member, right? And she kept doing it for 2 years. I couldn't tell my parents because obviously she threatened me to say, should you tell them, you know, Bazokshaya, they'll believe you also were part of it, you know? So, and my question was, then what did you do later? You know, did you still tell your parents? I don't know, I didn't, but you know? Now this takes us back to saying men should normalize speaking. Speak, it's okay for you to speak, you know? And then I asked him, so have you ever said it go cheating? Now I want to see if the relationship he has with Machita is healthy now. You know, are they well equipped? You know, and he said to me, no, Machita kitakare. I was raped when I was 7 years old for good 2 years. They said to me, hey, you understand? And here we are talking about someone that is psychologically, you know, disturbed. But now if you're gonna go to your boys and talk to them about such, because they also don't know what they don't know, they don't see, you know, the necessity to make it comfortable for you to continue speaking. Whereas into affected, would you go back now next time and say if young shy?
No,
You're not gonna do it, right? Now you I think above and beyond, we also need to make sure that gents create healthy friendships, you know, where speaking is just normal.
Yes.
And you create a lot more friendships now as a machita, as a man, now you have. It will be hard up until you find a space where dominator goes. Because you have to be a man first, you one. Dominate something, right? Don't be a man, mauna manyamatota, be a man we one, right? And then, because when you look at how men, it's based on values. It's based on common interests. It's based on rata diski. O support timing is supporta nan. Oh, you're Muslim or you're Christian or you're whatever, right? Yang now, but like now, ebese now picture it like this: you've got a spaces dominator, right? And the spaces dominator, otala otonsa ama visionaries. Do you think access space ongakhala kuso safely leso? Ama-visionary labantu. You get what I'm trying to say? But now among other spaces dominator, you become friends with just about anyone. You know, or maybe a common value angazi. So you first have to be a man first, you know, on your own, like lead something, dominate something. And then more to dominate, because what's happening now, most of us, I mean, in engineering, I loathe that thing. Like engineering, I remember I worked as a cleaner. And to people, it's mad. We are engineering, we are cleaner, but 13 rand an hour. But being frustrated as the engineering did, I would be nghlula, angithandi, angifuni. Now ngithatha le frustration build up over 8 hours in an environment engayifuni, nabantu engabafrustani. You understand? Ngithena ngiphuma nangicala sengibusy ngenze ezinye izinto. I discovered certain things that I'm into. When I discovered those certain things, ngacala ngaba centered. You get what I'm trying to say? Look at Bill Gates. Bill Gates was centered to a point, melabula labantu, you know. Look at Abu Steve Jobs. But centered. There are men who could look at those people, they'll be like, this guy, he's a weirdo, he sucks, I'm a geek, blah, 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 blah. But dominate the space when they say centered, and then everything, you start pulling people from angazi ukuthi ngenze sense na you understand abantu abangafuneki espacing sakho angeke babe khona because uzobabhora and then abantu abafuneka espacing sakho bazoza because you guys are both interested in that thing, your thing. You understand? And irana kanjalo. That's what I think. Yabo ukuthi yeah.
So I also believe, with that being said, I also believe that conversations about mental health, more so about mental health for men, should be conventional. Should be conversations that we have as often as possible.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're dealing with narrating the narrative that says a man is not supposed to show any sign of vulnerability. But before you are a man, you are a human being. There's bound to be vulnerability there and there. So we're dealing with that narrative to say men are not supposed to be weak, men are not supposed to be vulnerable, and men are not supposed to show their emotions. So I believe above and beyond, we are supposed to have these conversations as far as possible. Young men must be taught how to be in touch with their inner selves, must be in touch to know their emotions, must be in touch to talk. to be able to express themselves as eloquent as possible. And when they are going through things, they must be taught to be able to talk. So I believe we need to also, with that being said, that we need to, there are people that believe that there are tactical virtues of masculinity. That would be courage, strength, mastery, and honor, right? So you need to be able to master certain things as a man, because you can only lead through competency. Of course, that's what you just mentioned right now. But there's also has to be honor, and honor has to do more with character. So I think we need to build this character among men to say, you need to be able to listen to other men from their frame of references. Do not come with your presuppositions to say that, "Hey, mara wena kudala uyidla le nto le." You know, that's what we do as men. Whatever that's serious, that is uncomfortable, we make it a joke. We laugh about it. You know, we don't even know how to encourage each other. You know, when a brother lost a significant other, we'd rather buy you alcohol. Like, hey, Brad, now we don't know what to say. Let's drink, Brad. Let's drink our
And
sorrows.
that's where the problem
That's
is.
where the problem
that's where the
is.
problem is, yeah.
You know, Ebenezer, before he committed suicide, he appeared on this other podcast and he said, "Mina, I'm depressed." He said, "Mina, I'm depressed, but we don't talk, and mostly we don't listen to each other as men. You know, we turn everything into a joke. And when they joke about your situation, no matter how serious it is, you'd want to laugh it off also because of now you are a man. You don't want to appear weak to other men because you attempted to become weak and the response was not that conducive for you to continue showing your vulnerability. So when they laugh, you also laugh it off, you know, and we leave it like that. So I think we need to have genuine, sincere conversations about men's mental health and teach these younger ones as well. Luguti, it's okay to be emotionally vulnerable. It's okay to talk about experiences that hurt you. It's okay to talk to people. If you cannot find a safe space within the family, it's okay to go see a psychologist. You know, because that is the other thing that we don't do. Me, I won't go see a shrink. You know, so we don't want those environments. But I think if we have conversations that are meaningful and we make it a conventional thing, as much as it was a conventional thing for women to say indoor must, we must also make it a conventional thing to say men are allowed to, also because of they are human before they are men and before they are leaders. You know, because here's the thing: you cannot lead if you are not sane. You know, so your sanity matters. You first have to be in a right space of mind for you to be able to lead wherever you lead, whether you lead at work, whether you lead your family. But the most important thing is for you to be sane so that you can have a clear mind, so that you can be able to see and be able to know that you are leading people not according to your distracted emotions, but according to the clarity that you need as far as the task is concerned. So I think above and beyond, we need to talk more about this. The message has to be spread. Indoor must cry. Indoor must pray.
And then if you were to this is another resistance buyer, right? Now, what would the strategies or tools? I just want to hear your views, right? Indoda must, right? Well, he must. But now, ulanda umuntu oqala ukuzwa leyo information ozocabanga ukuthi taboo, what's the strategy to bringing him in onto the other side? You get what I'm trying to say, what I'm asking?
I think the most important thing is talking about it. Like the platform that we are on right now, having podcasts and writing books like I wrote in Indoda Must Cry. Men's conferences, have men's conferences, have engaging events, you know, and create safe spaces through these platforms to allow men to be able to feel free and to feel safe to be on board. It will over any revolution faces resistance at the beginning, right? But then the more the revolutionaries are consistent, the more they push the content and the concept. You find people embracing it at the end. I usually say the fact that something has been done for a very long time doesn't make it right or doesn't make it effect. It can always be changed. You know, I mean, long time ago there was this concept that women are not supposed to drive, and you know, you find that there are concepts like umhlaba round, the world is round, you know, or the world is flat rather. And then after some time, there are certain scientists that came to say, no, but that concept was flawed. Actually, the world is not flat. And when you go to the end of the world, you won't fall into a ditch. Actually, the world is like this. So through information, through engagement, there are certain concepts that are getting disapproved and new concepts rise, and we get more informed, especially in our age, the information age. There's more information out there. So I think the most important thing is to create more information about these concepts and distribute more information as possible, but more so make it a habitual thing for us to have engagements regarding these topics. One teach another, and one teach another, and one tells another, and then before we know it, we are there. I'm currently working with Childline. I'm mentoring the young boys from Childline, and the purpose of it, it's the concept. It's a ringamjita. So we're saying it to them as young as they are, ringamjita, kalamjita, because when we say Ndota must cry, it is both figurative and it's also literal, of course. In a figurative sense, we're saying that men must cry out, men must talk, So we're saying to these young ones, of which I believe it's better when we actually groom them from a young age. We're saying to these young ones, forget what they said about men. Now we are here. Let's deal with the issues of today. A man must be able to cry out. A man must be able to talk. And if need be, azehla inyembezi insizwa.
Ukukhihle sikanandi esikamaka Zulu, but yeah, because even when I was selling the book, we published an emotion guide that aid to help men navigate, actually through the emotions. As I was selling this book, I remember someone said to me, yo, imagine me reading this, abantu bangibhekile ngifunda incwadi ethi indoda melikhale, I can't, you understand? And somebody else also said, ngiyafuna ukuyifunda itimeleng, I really want to buy this book, but I'm scared of this chapter of my life ekungukuthi it's healing, and I don't think I'll ever be prepared to heal, and because I explained the book kancane nje ukuthi ikhuluma ngani, and the person was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. I'm not sure if I want to embark on the journey. It's such a very scary journey. You understand? Men can't even, be comfortable with healing on its own. And it's very important that as a man and as umuntu nje you heal. You understand? But they were even scared to even purchase the book. And those of whom that did actually came back and said, I feel better. Reading this book has helped me manage my emotions. I actually feel very better. So I think, we just need to normalize it. Again, I repeat, everything we know, saifundis, or we're taught, right? Everything we know was introduced to us by someone. You get what I mean? So if now we break the stigma, so at some point we'll eventually get to a point where it's normal for a man to speak. It's normal for a man to cry. It's normal for a man to take care of the emotions. It's just normal for you to, sit alone and uzcabang without people saying, she's, ntombazana, why angahlala iwani, why afuna ukunesa, why this, that, and the other. You understand? So yeah, I honestly feel like men should speak, should cry. It's allowed. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Machita at home. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
I agree. Carl and what?
So now you've mentioned something about toxic masculinity. You said you don't like the term the concept or the term toxic masculinity. Let me just highlight it just a bit, and also you tell us why is it that toxic masculinity doesn't settle well with you rather. So by toxic masculinity, I meant when they talk about the tactical virtues of masculinity, they'll talk about strength and courage. But strength and courage doesn't mean that you have to go out there and engaging in road rages and beating people and just to prove them that when you are a man, you have strength, you have courage. Misha said, if the guy says steps on your toes, nigga gets a punch because you are a man. You're proving that. And when you get home and the wife asks you, oh, Baba, why are you home this late? Or whatever the reason that the wife tries to understand, and Nindo slap right there and then, So I was talking about toxic masculinity in a sense of performative masculinity that the society forces men to engage in trying to show Oguti they are men. You have to prove that you are a man. You have to perform certain tasks, of course, but you have to have a certain attitude for you to prove that you are a man. So that's what I was actually highlighting on when I talk about toxic masculinity. So why is it that the term toxic masculinity doesn't settle well with you?
When you look at throughout history, as time goes on, men are being socialized to be less manly. I mean, bheka namhlanje kulamathema amaningi i-abuse yabafazi iningi manje or then now ezisikhathi siloku sihamba izinto ziba worse. You understand? Men are being socialized ukuba soft, ukuba and by soft I'm not saying we express my emotions ningizwe kahle, but we are being, and now ngale socialization le esitholayo, what happens is kuba namathema phophayo. You understand? And then now toxic masculinity. Then what then happens? Awusafuna ukuba masculine. You understand? Because I don't know what toxic masculinity is from virtuous masculinity. You get what I'm trying to say? So I just have an issue with the term because politically, I mean, women started working, like really working World War II. Amachita via IMP. Now via IMP, ama-company mele yenza ama-weapon. Amadoda okwenza ama-weapon akuphi asempini. Bacala ba-employ abafazi. But nabaceda uku-employ abafazi, amajita nawo buya empini athola abafazi bathatha imisebenzi yabo. Abafazi abasabadingi because of the role lebo edlala. Singakhona ukuzenzela. You get what I'm trying to say? And then you look at economics, from then, before abafazi basebenza, indoda could provide for the family and still have enough ukuthi izosala. You understand? And then abafazi athina basabaqala basebenza. In the household, sekusebenza abantu abayi-2. That means isalary yomfazi kumele siyisave, right? Because we're doing well without it, right? I save isalary yomfazi, we'll invest in whatever. But in reality, it's not that. And then chiki sekupoppa out amathema amaningi, feminism, sesizwa kakhulu ngefeminism, sesizwa kakhulu. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm not against ama feminist and whatnot. I'm just saying, like, there's someone behind the curtain or benefitayo from yonke lento lele chaos le yenzakalayo. You get what I'm trying to say? And toxic masculinity mayicheka nayo nje. Yeah, that's why I have issues with the word, with the term.
So in essence, toxic masculinity, it's a term they used trying to dumb down men.
I'd say so, partly. Like, it's part of, it's not just the term on its own. It's the term and other things. And then they're acceptable, I mean, today, when you talk to women, I remember a girl, Angela, ngomjita wake uthi, man, oh soft, man. Like, you understand? And I could tell, guy, he's not in touch with the masculine datings. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing with indoda is soft. We love them, maba soft. Santanda machita are soft, ne? Keep it that way, actually. It's safer with you, eh? It's much safer with you. You understand? All right, not a problem. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. And I hope, our viewers at home have learned a lot from this episode. And Like I said, I have a plug here for only 190. You can always just send me an email on indodamascry, one word, indodamascry@gmail.com. Then you purchase this copy, this emotion guide that will definitely help you through your healing journey, Mchita. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jonsina. See you again on our next episode.
That's wrong.